So we're going to do things a little bit different this week. I've already talked about having 2 episodes. We're gonna tease you a little bit this week. We've got the top 10 must-see WrestleMania performers, but guess what we're not doing? We're not telling you all 10 today. We're only giving you half of them. We're going to give you 10 through 6, and then we're going to end this show. You're going to have to tune in again to see the top 5. Sorry about that, but that's how we are.
That's right. And we're not doing a marathon. Oh, look at who it is.
Number
Number
10,
10.
right off the bat, Roman Reigns, the man who lost the other night. We talked about his presence. Number 10.
8 main events in his career at WrestleMania. He is the tribal chief. Acknowledge me. Elevated the game in wrestling. One thing I didn't mention, but you picked this shot about our night one coverage.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Cody's dejected in the ring after taking the people's elbow in the pin. Rock and Roman lift the titles in unison. Paul Heyman with the pose here. It's the exact same pose as when Cody lost last year. That illusion back 365 makes all the difference. And he was part of it. Roman Reigns absolutely belongs on this list. I'd argue 10's a little low based on his record at WrestleMania. But I get it. But I'm glad to
It's been
see him on
40
that
years.
list.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, he definitely has a presence and he's been a big must-see performer.
Yes, sir.
Number 9, Charlotte Flair.
That was a Pondwater Dave skewing the scale there. We love Pondwater, partnered here on the Wrestling and More Network. But the Queen was injured this year, did not wrestle in WrestleMania, but she was part of the very first women's main event on WrestleMania. Um, Hard to say that she doesn't belong on this list, in my opinion, Terry.
Yeah, she's got presence just like we said Roman Reigns. I mean, this is the women's side of having presence, and she makes an entrance every time. She's had great matches. She's very athletic, and that's beyond being the daughter of a legend. She's done
Correct.
her own thing.
Yeah,
Number
she has successfully etched her own way away from Ric Flair, and that I commend her for, because it would be very easy to wallow in that shadow of the Nature Boy, and she's never let that happen.
Absolutely. Number 8, Triple
Ah,
H, the man in charge.
the King
And
of
I tried to
Kings.
find good shots of these guys, a little bit different format, trying to get bigger pictures to really throw it out there. And this is a great shot of the man.
23 WrestleManias he had been a part of as a professional wrestler.
Crazy.
Yeah, and the first one landed in 90 seconds to the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 12. Needless to say, his stocks went up just a little bit inside the company, Terry. Great
Yeah.
matches with The Undertaker
Farther
at
up the org chart.
at 17, and then the subsequent ones in the end of an era match inside Hell in a Cell, where they brought it with Shawn Michaels as the referee. Of course, he had the match with Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit in '04, Chris Jericho that he wrestled. He's also wrestled Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Batista. Uh, Definitely Triple H belongs on this list. And one thing about him is you could expect a huge entrance every WrestleMania. Once he got big, they always made it a very special part of his presentation for WrestleMania.
Absolutely. Number 7, John
Oh,
Cena.
it's hard to keep Super Cena off, man. He's the face of the PG era. Uh,
Showed up this time,
yeah, starting
unexpectedly.
at WrestleMania 20, he wins the United States title from JBL. Then he goes on to win the world title the following year. I mean, Cena Cena had quite the track record facing the likes of JBL. He beat I actually believe he beat JBL for the world title. He beat the Big Show for United States title. He's wrestled both Triple H and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. He obviously had the matches with The Rock, The Miz, um, Rusev. He wrestled Rusev at WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken. Rusev came out with the tank, the modern day Miro in AEW. He come out in the tank. Really interesting presentation. But yeah, Cena belongs on the list for sure because he was Hulk Hogan of the PG era. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
there you
and I
go.
mean, this is a guy, he's been our champ of the week before.
Yep.
Huge with kids, with adults. Um, he's been a huge part of it. And
Well,
our
and as we talked about, he popped Logan Paul coming out to help Cody,
yeah,
and granted, Paul's a heel, and he may wrestle Cody at some point, but that didn't matter because that moment Logan Paul was a wrestling fan, getting to see John Cena come make the save or try to make the save.
and our final number 6. This is the last one we're going to talk about in this episode. Randy Macho Man Savage. We got a picture here, of course, with Miss Elizabeth. I believe this
Yep.
is WrestleMania 7.
That would be WrestleMania 7 after he retired for the retirement match with the Ultimate Warrior there in the Los Angeles Coliseum. Or not the Coliseum, but the Los Angeles Arena because they moved it
Right.
from the Coliseum. But yeah,
My
Savage
favorite
had
wrestler of all time.
yeah, so arguably Randy Savage is part of one of the greatest, if not the greatest WrestleMania matches, and that was at 3 with Ricky Steamboat in front of Pontiac Silverdome. But let's not take this for granted. At 2, it was Animal Steel. 3, it was Steamboat. 4, it was the wrestling tournament where he ends
Mhm.
the finals with Ted DiBiase. 5, the Mega Powers explode and it's Hulk. 6, it's Dusty. 7, it's Warrior. 8, it's Ric Flair for the world title. 9, he's on commentary, and 10, it's Crush. So this is a man with quite the track record um, for being a professional wrestler and really a defining part or building block of rather WrestleMania and what it meant. And this was the guy you knew you were going to get a good match out of when he was on the WrestleMania card.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Oh, he did his
other
homework.
than
I mean, we hear about a lot
yeah,
of matches being scripted now, but he did it right from the start.
yeah, and Rick Rude, just to mention this, Rick Rude and Randy Savage were the 2 people that got the best out of the Ultimate Warrior. I mean,
Yeah,
Warrior was not a good wrestler, apparently not a very good human being, not a nice person, not easy to do business with. That being said, he got probably the very best match of Warrior's career out of him. If not, it was Hulk the year before with the help of Pat Patterson. Either way, um, the Macho Man was WrestleMania for the first decade. He was box
absolutely.
office and he was going to be there. And let's face it, that box office they set in Atlantic City when it was Hulk and Macho, the Mega Powers explode, a year-long story, a patient story. What does that sound like, Terry? Finishing Cody's story, a patient story where you suck people in and get them to believe that the Macho Man had a chance to defeat Hulk Hogan in front of whatever it was, 20,000 people in Atlantic City at the time because it wasn't the huge arena. Um, but that Mega Power story is the perfect professional wrestling story, and it was with patience. And I hope, because we're talking about Cody finishing the story a year later, we get a lot more of that in WWE's presentation of professional wrestling.
I have a great idea. Let's finish the top 10.
Speaking
We
of
didn't
pissed
finish
people,
yesterday. Yeah.
yeah, when we got to number 6 and they didn't get the top 5, there's probably some pissed people there. So let's
But we
finish
were
it.
running long and we had so much to talk about. We're already an hour in. But numbers 6 through 10 were fantastic, and I expect this list to only get better, Terry.
That's right. We show them on the screen here. Number 10 was Roman Reigns. Number 9, Charlotte Flair. Number 8, Triple H. Number 7, John Cena. Number 6, Macho Man Randy Savage, my favorite of all time. Number 5, Shawn Michaels. And I show the picture
Whoa.
here,
Whoa.
putting that foot in the chin of Ric Flair after he told him he loved him. Shawn Michaels.
Mr. WrestleMania is number 5.
So you expect him to be higher, I'm guessing.
Frank's going to be
Well,
mad at me.
I mean, he's Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. Obviously, the retirement match with Flair, the matches with The Taker, the match with Jericho, the match with Angle, the match with Triple H and Chris Benoit. I will argue this till I'm dead. Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring worker of all time, not because of the first half of his career, but because of the 4-year absence and who he got to work with in the second half of his career. such better talent than working with, no offense, British Bulldog, Yokozuna, even Kevin Nash, Psycho Sid. Not a great title run for Shawn Michaels in the early days. And I guess he did get to work with Austin, but he did a lot of it hurt. The second half of the run, though, what made him Mr. WrestleMania is certainly that second half when he, just works with the who's who, starting with Jericho in 03, and they ran the table. And I think he's too low on this list. This would be one I'd have a problem with, but I want to see who the other four are. I don't know what y'all think about Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, though.
I've mentioned that I'm not a huge Shawn Michaels fan, but I did vote him pretty high just based on knowing what he has done. I'm not voting people down because I don't like them. Personal preference is not going to be that big of an influence, but I'm a little surprised he's number 5 myself.
I mean, I know he's a lot of people's favorites, so I think I'm also surprised to see him so low, but I will admit, I think I put him right in the middle somewhere because I thought there were better performers.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
let's see one of those better performers. Number 4, Hulk Hogan. So obviously
the
this
Hulkster.
is front end and not based on flipping around kind of talent, but he put butts in the seats.
Yeah, definitely. Hulk Hogan opened WrestleMania, or closed WrestleMania, the first one. Of course, he and Mr. T. And then he got Bundy. And then he got Andre. And then he got Andre again. And then he got Savage. And then he got Warrior. And then he got Slaughter.
Right.
And then he got Sid. And then he got Money Inc. and Yoko. And that was the end of his run until he got The Rock. So those matches I just named, everybody can point to the Warrior Hogan match. Everybody can point to the Savage Hogan match. Everybody knows the Yokozuna thing thanks to Bret Hart and all his bitching. But The Rock Hogan in Canada at 18, I don't know that there was there are, in my opinion, better wrestling matches, but I don't know that you have a more memorable WrestleMania match than Rock Hogan.
Good deal. Yeah,
You're both nodding. This is a podcast. This is riveting audio. I love you.
I'm not gonna
setting up a comment. I wanted to. We discussed. Just throw it out there. We discussed before the show. Man, we get in a big rush and we just throw it out there. Let's put a little suspense in there. But what I was thinking while I was nodding is you talked about Shawn Michaels having a couple of different eras. Hogan had the same kind of thing here. Hogan he is the man that made the WWF with Vince in the 80s. And he had that era, the golden era. But then he leaves for WCW and he comes back. And he's not finished with WrestleMania. So he did it later. So he had a couple of eras himself. Not as big in the second half because he's older, but he still has it. I mean, he puts butts in seats no matter what. If he came out at Raw next week, it would be huge.
I forgot 19 where he wrestled Vince McMahon in Seattle. You are correct, Terry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you got to give him his due. He's put butts in seats. I've said that like 4 times now. He's done his whole career.
Hogan must pose, brother. And I mean, that's pose. It, though.
That's why I picked this picture, because Hogan must pose.
People love it. People love it.
Yeah. Number 3, The Undertaker, which is honestly a little surprising because of his record at WrestleMania.
So he was my number 1.
I think I put him at number 1 because we said box office draw WrestleMania. Undertaker is synonymous with WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And nobody really paid attention to the streak, I don't think, until maybe King Kong Bundy or whatever at 11, or maybe Diesel at 12. But the who's who and the gauntlet he ran in the latter years, from the Triple H, the Shawn Michaels, Bray Wyatt, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. This is not a hot take, I don't think. The Undertaker streak should have remained intact. Brock Lesnar
Yeah.
didn't need to beat The Undertaker at 30 any more than The Undertaker needed to lose at 30.
Right.
So I'm a little surprised he's number 3. I would have agreed with Allison. I think he's number 1 when we're talking WrestleMania, box office, attraction. Who is it that you identify with this event? So I think he's a little low. I guess I'll ask this question to both of you since this is a podcast. Do you think he stuck around too long and tried to make too many WrestleMania events?
I'll go first.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I enjoyed a lot of the later years with Undertaker. I know a lot of people hated it, but I loved staged one. I think that was WrestleMania, right? When they were in like the
Yeah.
graveyard or wherever.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
with
loved
AJ
that.
Styles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
the
AJ Styles.
cinematic battle.
It
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I loved that. And that's absolutely at the end of his career. So
Right.
I see no issue with him continuing because it was always the is he, isn't he question, you know, and having been there this weekend and seeing him now, granted, I knew he was there because he was sitting in the suite above me, but in a million years, I would never have guessed he was going to be back in that ring. I
Right.
thought that time was come and gone. Yes, I know nobody really liked it that much. Guess what? This girl who had never seen him live popped like you would not believe.
I bet.
So I wasn't thinking
I,
about stories at that point.
I got to watch him wrestle live in Denver, Colorado in 2003, and his opponent was John Cena. It was
Oh, jeez.
Vengeance. The pay-per-view was Vengeance, and it was before Cena made it big. And Taker whooped his ass for about the first 7 minutes and then allowed Cena to get a ton of offense. This was when Cena was the doctor of thugonomics, and he was using the chain to win all the matches and stuff. And it was a really good match. My other question, and I guess maybe Terry, you answer this one for us, buddy. Did Roman Reigns need to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania? Since Brock already beat him and ended the streak.
So I'm going to answer both questions. I think my answer to that is no. I mean, I think Roman Reigns was going to be what he is today, no matter if that happened or not. But kind of back to your previous question, and let me do that. I want to expand on that a little bit. I think The Undertaker, just who he is, his size, his presence, in my mind, allowed him to stick around a lot longer and it not be a problem. He's not, now I'm going to say he's not a high flyer. He absolutely is a high flyer compared to guys his size. We've seen that. But he's not like these guys like Jeff Hardy or somebody who are having to do all this crazy stuff to stick in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
His presence, his size, the fear that he puts out there when he's in the ring, that doesn't go away just because he's a little bit older. And I think because of that there was no problem with him sticking around.
Oh, good answers. Like I said, I just wondered because
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that, and this could be a hot take, I don't know. It did nothing for Lesnar or Roman to beat Taker, and it did nothing for Taker. But the worst part for me is we'd already seen him get beat. You didn't have to beat him again with Roman. The whole he retired. Now, if you two remember, I don't know if either of you were watching at the time, because I know, Terry, you said Cyrus got you back into wrestling with John
Yeah.
Cena.
In
Was it John
19,
Cena?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember, but the night after Mania, the crowd erupted in "fuck you, Roman" chants because he beat The Undertaker, and they weren't having it. They wouldn't let him get on the microphone. They wouldn't let him talk because he was trying to say, "This is my yard now." And people were not on board with Roman Reigns at that time. Now, the Roman Reigns we saw Sunday could get away with that. The Roman Reigns that wrestled The Undertaker could not get away with it, and they were not having it. I don't even remember what city it was, but it was genuine "fuck you, Roman" chants. Like they were not. They had to bleep it out on the TV, all that. And this podcast is rated E for everyone as a reminder, because I'm simply quoting. I'm not actually swearing,
Right.
but
Because you would never do that.
no, never,
No.
especially about Texas or Yankees baseball.
I'm surprised it's not in your headline there.
No, you said taxes or stealing. Okay. But no, that's it. I didn't know what y'all thought, because the Taker to me should have been left special. Once in a lifetime, you get a wrestler like him. No one could ever do the Undertaker gimmick again. And people can say, well, we got Kane. You got Kane for a few years in comparison to 2 decades with the Undertaker. Because they had to unmask Kane, and then they made him the crazy monster psycho with the hair thing, and then they made him the, what was it, director of operations they called him when he was with the Authority. And I mean, they've made him all sorts of different things, but the Undertaker was the Undertaker was the Undertaker. So I don't know, I thought they could keep him special. He's my Mr. WrestleMania, but apparently there are 2 other wrestlers in front of him.
I bet we know which ones, but why don't we find out which order? Number 2, The Rock.
Dwayne.
I love him.
Allison, start us off, because we saw you throw up the heart sign. This is video, babe.
I know. I keep forgetting. I will tell you, The Rock was probably in my top 5 for sure. You know, I don't know where to go from here. It's the presence. It's the, if you know The Rock is going to be there, guess what? You are more likely, I would say, to buy that ticket. Speaking for the ladies and the men who like men, he is also, and I said this before, his in-ring performance is only enhanced by the fact that he keeps himself in wonderful shape. In a million years, I never expected to see The Rock in briefs this past weekend.
Yeah.
He's 51?
51.
51.
Yeah, he's not coming out with a T-shirt on like you see these other guys. A lot of these retired guys coming back, they're wearing that T-shirt.
Yep.
Not The Rock.
Mm-mm.
But to me, I would expect nothing less.
Right.
Because that's what The Rock brings to WrestleMania.
He doesn't have
and we all know who he wrestled at WrestleMania. Hogan.
I know you
Austin
do.
times 3. You know, you can forget the what was the guy's name that was with the Iron Sheik at 13? It was Rikishi, but it was Rikishi under the mask. It was Quang or whatever, or maybe not Quang, but whoever it was. But that one didn't matter. And then he got Shamrock at 14, and the whole quadruple, the 4-way match at 16 with the whole McMahon's in the corner and all that shit. But the bottom line is, because I know who number 1 is, and if it's not number 1, it's going to shock me. For all of us our age, even though Allison pointed out earlier she's slightly older than I am, or maybe it was yesterday when I referred to my dog as an old heifer.
Bring it out on the show then. Okay.
Well, you know, she loves younger men, especially as her platonic life partner. But anyway, Austin Rock defined our wrestling fandom in the Attitude Era. That's who it was. Without him, you don't have it. But we also just said that Rock Hogan had one of the most memorable matches in WrestleMania history. And then he wrestled John Cena. And then, you know, as Allison pointed out, Saturday, he wrestled again. Sunday, he made an appearance. The man is timeless, really. The Rock is. And I think there is only one that could be better than him. And I know this isn't Highlander. We're not cutting anybody's heads off. But Terry, hit the graphic, buddy, because we know who it is.
Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Got him drinking the beer here. Got the 2 knee braces in his element.
It's an incredible run he had. Go ahead,
See,
Allison.
Okay, so I'm going to point something out here. I love that Stone Cold is number one. It makes sense to me. I understand it. But you pointed out the knee braces because I'm sitting here going, how long was Steve Austin's run in WrestleMania?
I haven't. I know this answer, but go ahead.
No,
Are you
I want
asking?
it. I'm asking. What is it?
7 years.
7 years. Now look at The Rock.
Yep.
What's his run at WrestleMania?
More than that.
Yeah.
3
And
decades.
I
Part
find
of
that
3
very
decades.
interesting. Yeah. But that
Yep.
tells you something to me. That tells you something about the impact and just how good they really were.
From memory, Savio Vega at 12, Bret Hart the double turn at 13, Shawn Michaels at 14, Rock in Philly at 15, off 16 due to injury, 17 in Texas was again Rock, 18 was Scott Hall, 19 in Seattle was Rock, 38 or 9 was it last year? It was Austin, or it was Kevin Owens. Those are Austin's matches other than the appearances that he made. Because he did that whole thing with the League of Nations with Hulk and Sean, or Mick and Sean, whatever. But those are the matches. The trilogy's there. The double turn is there. The passing of the torch at the Boston Garden, or not the Boston Garden, the Fleet Center in Boston in March of '98, when Shawn Michaels, injured, finally does the job to Stone Cold, and Jim Ross yells, "The Austin era has begun." The Philly match in 15 and 17, when Vince and Austin end the show by joining forces. 19, The Rock finally gets him. So much, to your point, Allison, 7 years worth of WrestleMania is all you got from Stone Cold Steve Austin, though.
But he sits on top. And here's the full list to run it back through.